Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows and adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Call of the Night Season 1, Episode 11. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Episode took me by surprise. Was not expecting it to take the direction it was taking when we got introduced to Anko. She's a private detective that Ko just happens to run into because he's looking for customers for Nizuna's cuddle business because working as a maid got her more money. She realized how awesome money is, so now she's putting that back into her cuddle business to like expand upon, and now she needs to find more clients. And Ko went looking, and he randomly found Anko. The ambiance in which he found her, just like that darkness, and then her lighting a cigarette, disappearing into the darkness, and then reappearing like that. Would have never expected, like, I knew something was up with her character the moment it was like, well, he's initially like, well, it seems like I'm probably trying to hit on you, but I'm not. She's like, oh, that's such a shame. An older woman like me would have appreciated knowing, like, oh, such a youngster was going to really look into me and stuff like that. And so she, ends up bringing up the whole, like, right, oh, you're working a part-time job, and employer's not supposed to basically have anyone under the age of 18 operating from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. And it's like, oh, she could end up losing her work and stuff like that. I mean, does Nazuna even have a work license to do all that stuff? I mean, she probably does, but I mean, why ever get caught up in the technicalities of, like, why would Ko need to know that information? But Anko lets him go, being like, I'm just joking, I'm just kidding, like, I'm not here to one kind of bust your balls about that. But the fact that she knew that was kind of interesting. So when she's like, oh, my job has me on my legs all day, I was like, are you a private detective? And lo and behold, she is. She's like, usually I handle like internal affairs type of thing. I thought she was meaning like, I mean, she might have been implying like legitimate affairs and stuff, but what she's looking into, the moment she was like, oh yeah, I'm looking for someone named Akiyama, I was like, why does that name sound familiar? It's like, it's only been 2 episodes, but I completely forgot. Akiyama is the guy that Siri is with. And obviously Ko immediately, well, because she also calls him by his nickname, is like Akun, and it's like, he's like, yeah, I have no idea, but she can immediately read him. She's very good at, I mean, Ko's not that good at hiding it, but she has a sense, and she grabs him, and you could hear it, like, she could hear it in his pulse, like, okay, his pulse is getting right, like, he knows more than letting him. She's like, sorry for startling you, but I mean, if you know nothing, it's okay, but it's like, yeah, you should, go find a different, customer or whatever, and moves on. But she does say, like, interesting, I ended up stumbling across a major clue in the most interesting way. And I'm wondering who is looking for Akiyama, because he did just out of nowhere, because I guess, like, him kind of, like, spiraling around Siri the way he was, I think, he was probably already, like, it was probably like, oh, like, he's been off lately, but probably, like, after being turned, he immediately disappeared, so it could easily be his family asking about him, because that's the same thing. We haven't met Ko's family, but he's living with them, obviously, so it's going to be a situation of, it's implied because he's sneaking away from somebody every time he leaves the house, but it could be most likely Akiyama's, like, family or friends are calling him missing. I also wonder, is she doing it because she knows what Akiyama's circumstances are based on but I was thinking, like, is that just going to be the end of her? Especially with, like, the next part of the episode involves, like, Mahiro, Akira, and Ko all meeting up at his school, which he has a really cute reason why he wants to do it. It's very corny reasons, as, like, Akira kind of points out and stuff. I know it might not have been in this episode, it was a previous episode she referenced, like, how, like, sappy and corny he can get. But the fact is that Mahiro is like, yo, us meeting again after all that time, like, it was just happenstance. Like, that could have just as easily not happened. And so for him, it's like, I want to kind of make up for the fact is, like, we reunited and we're hanging out again. It's like, I want us to have fun. I want us to have some memories, because this could have not happened again, and it did, and we should kind of celebrate that. I think it's interesting because Mahiro immediately jumps over the fence, and when it's like, oh, let's go have fun, Ko immediately hops over too, with such, like, the fact is, I mean, I guess he's, like, hopping over places, and, normally he has Nazuna to kind of go to crazy, like, heights and stuff, but he's really enjoying himself in the moment of all of this. So it's like, hey, let's go have fun. You say let's have fun. He's down for it. So they go into the school and they're investigating the 7 different mysteries, which I'm immediately like, oh, are those pretty common across the board? Because a lot of those same mysteries I've seen in JRPGs, like the piano that plays itself. I've seen that in like Trails of Cold Steel 1. I've seen the whole stairs that count differently when you kind of go up and down them. Immediately I think of Kingdom Hearts 2 and Twilight Town. So it's funny where I'm like, oh, those must be like pretty common school mysteries. But yeah, they start investigating them one by one. There's the reflection one, which there's technically one revolving around reflections in Kingdom Hearts 2. The one about a bouncing ball is like, technically there's one like that as well in Kingdom Hearts 2. So they must be pretty prominent, like common enough mysteries in Japanese like schools and stuff like that, so I just thought that was interesting. But then finally we get to like a big mystery of there's a teacher that went missing like 10 years ago and it was never answered, but he's a teacher at this school, and they say like on like nights like this is when you can find the teacher in the school. But like Akira and Ko thought like it was kind of nonsense until they go to the classroom and find him. And I thought it was so interesting like how he was animated in that moment, because you can't see any details. He's almost like sketched with how they designed him. And then we get the title of understand what the title of the episode, like, do you know what a vampire is? I thought that was about my hero finding out about vampires or whatever, but this is where the show takes like we've had serious moments up until now, but like this is where the series gets dark when he's like, I can't hold back anymore. Why'd you have to be here? And he grabs Akira and tries to feed on her, because Akira's run into vampires. Well, to be fair, the only vampire she's run into is Nazuna, and Nazuna isn't as scary, but it was kind of that rude awakening, because up until this point, Ko doesn't have the full scope of all vampires. Vampires are like people. There are good people and there are bad people. There are people, he's run into some fun people at night. He's run into some interesting vampires. But for the most part, he's had a decent enough experience of vampires, but he only knows 6. Well, now 7 because of Akiyama, but like, 7 out of an entire population. Who knows how large the vampire community is, but that's only 7 people. That'd be like, oh, judging all of humanity based on the 7 people you meet. Once again, people can be good, people can be bad, people are somewhere in between. And so Ko has had this very like fantasized notion of what vampires are because of the people he met. The first ever vampire he met was Nazuna, and so that colored his impression of them, because he's like, right, he saw that they can be scary like Siri, like especially when her and Nazuna duked it out. I mean, to the point like Nazuna like literally lopped off her arm, and then the other vampires are threatening him, but he kind of gets to see their personality and they're kind of fun even when they're threatening to kill him. So he takes it seriously, but he's not taking it as seriously as he should. To be fair, it's like he's a 14-year-old kid, so it never really crossed, like, the concept of death and stuff has never really hit him. Even with the conversation with Akira being like, yo, if you don't turn into a vampire in a year, they will kill you. But it's like this rude awakening, because for like Ko, it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense. Vampires are supposed to be pretty and sleek. This guy is not that. He's so unkempt. It doesn't make any sense. This is a vampire. I know this feeling. Like when he thinks back to when Siri like threatened him, he's like, I remember this feeling, but he doesn't look like the vampires I know. And Ko knocks him away with a chair, and the guy's pleading with him. He's like, all of you need to leave. Go. I can't hold myself back. And that's when Anko showed up. I'm like, you're not a vampire, are you? I was like, I don't think you are. But I was like, are you a vampire hunter? It seems like she isn't, but who knows? She could stem from a line of vampire hunters, and like being a detective is just a front for her hunting vampires. Or it's just like, because she even says like, my job involves finding missing people, which some of the times it has to deal with vampires, sometimes it doesn't. But she learned to kind of utilize like different weapons and means of dealing with vampires. But for Ko, it's like, it's not making sense to him, like, why this guy is the way he is. And the moment he tasted her blood, I was like, oh, did she do something to her blood? Because he's like, oh, it's gross. It's not supposed to be like this. Because we find out, at least Amko suggests, like, this guy hasn't fed in 10 years. That's why he looks the way he does, because he's been depriving himself for 10 years. This was his breaking point. Who knows? He might have finally, like, offed himself by the time... this might have been his last day, but he was barely hanging on, and the kids happening to be here at the wrong time is what set him off, and he's still trying to hold himself back. But we found out that he was tricked by a vampire, Because Ko's going into this situation knowing, and it's not a trick situation. Nazuna's just kind of like, if you want to fall in love with me, go ahead. I'm just taking it in stride, take it as is, enjoy the ride as it is, the freedom and having fun. But this is Ko seeing the real dark side of vampirism, finding out this guy was tricked. He fell in love with a woman and then she turned him, and he was like, I was left alone. I didn't know what I was. This woman probably turned him and then just abandoned him. And he was left with confusion about what he is. At least Ko's going into this having explanation of knowing. I mean, Akiyama didn't have too much time to deal with the fact is that he got turned into a vampire. But it's kind of this ugly reality of it isn't the fantasized thing that you thought you would. Because you've been looking at it from a kid lens. And this is one of those situations where you had to grow up pretty quickly to be like, yo, there's an ugly side to this thing that you've been glamorizing for a while now. And, Anko is trying to help this guy. It's like, right, you can die as a human. And she holds out a ring and he's like, no. I'm wondering if that was his wedding ring. Because he probably abandoned like a wife or fiance or something. It's like, you probably abandoned your family, and that was to try and bring him back to his humanity. It's like, no, remember who you were. You were a human. You were a victim in all of this. And the fact is, this is your first time ever tasting blood because you've stopped yourself because you didn't want to be a monster. It's like, don't worry, and kept him there in place. And even while he was dying from the sun, you did see the smile across his face. It felt like he was kind of finally free from this nightmare. But for Ko, he didn't like that because he's like, no, how could you kill him like that? Basically it's like, you really don't know, I forgot what it was Ko was saying, but basically it's kind of like, we don't really know his circumstances, but she grabs him up. It's like, yo, you're being an idiot kid right now. And I think she even called him out, but like, oh, I'm not going to let you follow the path towards your idiotic dream. So she's probably done enough research in the time frame in between her and Ko meeting. Maybe she'd already heard rumors about him and just didn't have a name to put to it. But the moment she met him, she's like, this is the kid I've probably been hearing about. Because she's probably been following a lot of the rumors and word around on the street about a kid walking around. Because this is bad because it could lead back to Nazuna because she has beef with vampires. I mean, the only person Nazuna's feeding on is him, but she has fed on other people before. The question is, she's not the type to turn other people. But what about the other vampires? Will she go after Midori and all of them? Especially because Siri did turn Akiyama. And that's what I was bringing up earlier. Like, does she know what happened to Akiyama? That's why she's looking for him. Just to kind of free him from this. Because she knows, once again, if people are missing, there's a good chance it's vampires. Doesn't always mean it is. But I don't know. But it's meant to be a rude wake up for Ko to realize you don't know all there is to vampires. Once again, like I said, you have this very fantasized notion of what it is, and you kind of romanticize it. But hey, this was an ugly side of it. So the question is, how does this affect Ko and Nazuna going forward? Is he going to feel a certain way about her drinking his blood going forward? It's funny because I think I've made reference to Rosario plus Vampire a lot recently, but specifically in reference to this show, I have as well. But there was a point in this story where Sukun kind of got that way as well because he was kind of nervous. Because in that series, he's just under the impression, you get bit by a vampire and they suck your blood, you'll become one. Once again, in that continuity, I've talked about it, a vampire has to inject their blood into you before you can become something else. Which there are stages that Sukun's character goes through. He becomes a ghoul and that transforms into something as the series progresses. Highly recommend you check out this series if you're interested. It's in a similar tone where it's like a action comedy romance fantasy / supernatural series, but Sukun had a similar reaction where he kind of got nervous about Mocha drinking his blood anymore until he was informed yo, you'll only become a vampire if someone injects their blood into you. But I'm curious now with this kind of, like I said, rude awakening, will it kind of make Ko second guess things or will he double down? Because he's been so unmoved and very steadfast in his wanting to become a vampire, but I think this was kind of rocking some of that infallibility in the regards of he was so certain and now he might have doubts. That's what I'm saying. We'll have to wait to the next episode to really see what the after effects and the aftermath of this is. Also, I think it's interesting. She went out of her way to give her card to Kira and Mahiro because she she doesn't think Ko's a completely lost cause, but she sees the path he's down, and she's thinking like, well, maybe now I've opened your eyes, we'll see how you react. Whereas like you might be down for this, but at least your friends, two normal humans, if anything comes up, they can call on me. But I wonder will he talk to Nazuna at all about all of this, and will he run into the others? Because once again, he's only known 6 vampires, so it had to be one of them. Or at least that's probably a thought he has. But then it's kind of like, yeah, like Nazuna isn't the offspring type. It makes you wonder, has she never done it? The way they talk about it makes it seem like she's never done it, but maybe she has, but there's a point she just stopped doing it. Once again, this was 10 years ago, so we don't know how long any of them have been living here in this city. So are they relatively new to the area? Have they been around a while? Because to be fair, Ko's never interacted with the nightlife of his city until the beginning of this series. So it's only been like a little while. It's probably been maybe weeks or months of him doing this. So yeah, he's still brand new to all of this. So there's a lot that probably happened nighttime wise that he just was never aware of. So like I said, I'm so curious to see where things kind of go. Like, it's interesting. We take is episode 11 where like I said, we dabbled into seriousness before, but this is where things kind of get really serious. So it's really fascinating that this is where things stand, and I'm excited to see where the next 2 episodes take us, because next episode is the second to last episode of the season, so what goes down there is going to set up the season finale. So but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.